Welcome to the channel, folks. MoneyStream, aka moneystream.com.au. And today we have the pleasure, as always, CEO and founder Jim Penman of one of the largest franchise chains in the world, with over 5,300 franchisees here in Australia, New Zealand, and Canada. Welcome, Jim.
Good to be here, as always.
Thank you so much for your ongoing support. So today we're going to be talking about how to influence the outcome. And as I've introduced Jim, he's also an author of many books. Every Customer a Fan, Epigenetics and Biohistory, and also the book Jim's book. So who other than to talk to us about influence the outcome, but Jim Penman, over to you.
What's your question, John?
That's all right. The question is how to influence the outcome. So, say in a day-to-day business environment, obviously everyone's trying to do business and so forth and so forth. Influencing the outcome. So, in other words, someone goes out and does a lawn mowing quote or does a sales pitch in whatever environment. What are the key areas in your under your advice that influences the outcome to close the deal?
Okay, all right. Reputation is very important for us. We find that our brand is very strong, which means that just by carrying the brand, we've got a lot better chance to get in the job. And we know that because we've had, well, I'll give you an example. Years ago, we had a company doing security doors. They had their own factory to make the doors. And they used to sell doors under their own brand for $850. And they'd
Right.
sell them under our brand, $1,000. Same brand, same door exactly, when it's made in the same factory. But simply because of the credibility of our reputation, that we will stand behind whatever happens, people were prepared to pay an extra $150. Now, that's one thing. Second thing is, what matters a great deal is speed of response. And you're talking about a service call. We have a situation where a client would book in through the office, so they would ring to book a job in. Let's just say it's a lawn mowing job.
Mm.
What they're promised is that the franchisee will call them back within 2 hours. And we've had some studies done indicating what is the exact effect of when they call back. So in one particular study, what we found was that when the client reported the call coming after the first 2 hours, some of them did actually still book the job, but less than half, well under half.
Right.
When the client reported the franchisee ringing back within the first 2 hours, but after the first 10 minutes, 78% reported the job as being, got the job done. When the client reported the callback as coming in the first 10 minutes, 85% got the actual job done. So for exactly the same service and probably quoting about the same price, we've virtually doubled the response rate in terms of getting the job done simply by the speed at which we return back. And you can look at the reasons for that. As far as we can tell, one of them is that if you ring back quickly, the client has not had a chance or opportunity to ring several other people, which they commonly do in our kind of industry.
Mm.
And the other thing is that when you promise 2 hours and get back in 2 minutes, that immediately under promise, over perform, and the client thinks, "Wow, I often reject the way. This is really quick. This is really impressive. This is the kind of person who does what they say they'll do and how. So I trust them, or they have credibility." So
Absolutely.
speed
Yeah.
of response, very, very important.
That's very interesting stats.
Yeah, but you'd
Wow.
think that price would matter, but it actually matters a lot less than other things too. And
Yes.
even things like, for example, when you if you can't reach a client, you actually have to text them. This is our system. You
Yeah.
text them, you
Yeah.
say, "I've tried to ring you. Hi, this is Bill here from Jim's Cleaning," or whatever it is. "Tried to call you. Please call me back on phone number." So you actually
Absolutely, yeah.
communicate with them. And the same thing, you make an appointment to turn up. Let's say you promise to be within a certain guideline. Now, we don't promise an exact time because you can't be that accurate. So
Mm.
instead of saying 11 o'clock, we say between there and say 10 and 12.
Yeah.
Give
Yeah.
yourself time. If you find yourself in a situation where you can't get to the client within that time and early as possible, like say 10 o'clock, I'm not going to make it by 12. You ring the client, you tell them, sorry, running late, going there between so and so and so. So if they're not sitting at home feeling frustrated.
Mm.
And again, if you can't get through, you text them.
Yes, yeah. Extraordinary, isn't it? I guess the way you've explained it, and obviously proof in the pudding, with your 5,300 franchisees and growing, it's personalised. A customer feels valued, and the rest is history. And also, it reminds me of Cohen Brown when I was working in one of the major banks. Cohen Brown is Canadian based, training. He actually, one of the first things he trained us in. This was back in the night, exactly what you've just said. You've got to delight the customer, and your first time that you can introduce yourself, it's like opening night at a concert, and raving fans, which is exactly what you've described. The stats prove that obviously the response time is quicker.
Mm.
Forget about price, done deal, if you know what I mean. It's exactly how Cohen Brown explained it to us back in the 90s. When it's actually the Commonwealth Bank, the sales went through the roof, which is exactly what you've described. Conversion rate went that way. Yeah.
Yeah,
It,
it does too. So anything matters too. When you
yeah.
turn up, for example, you dress the part, you wear a uniform. Now, a gym's
Yes.
uniform is pitiful, but any form of uniform is much better than
Yeah.
no uniform at all. Well,
Yeah.
for example, one of the questions I ask people in training, especially women, because the main decision makers, you've got a
Yes.
choice between two different contractors to do a job.
Yeah.
Both very similar in overall sort of presentation, looks, the way they speak, and so forth.
Yes.
One guy's wearing a uniform, one guy's wearing a no uniform. The guy in the uniform is 10% more expensive. Who do you pick?
Mm.
99% of the time, they'll go for the uniform, even 10% more expensive. So it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
If you're in business, you wear a recognizable uniform, branded uniform,
Mm.
and you brand your vehicle, your van, your trailer.
Yes.
So you
Yes.
branding. And then when you hand materials to somebody, they're proper stationery. In other words, it's written with your company logo
Mm.
and then a business card, all those kinds of things that impress a person, that show them that you're serious about business. These all matter a great deal.
Yeah, and I guess, which I've read on some of your information as well, your website, trust is a big factor with what you've just explained, because then the trust, you've got the brand and the trust starts to form, and then of course there's engagement, and again the rest is history. Yeah, yeah, that's interesting. I'll just bring over Hillary for a moment, Jim, if she's got a question for you on the topic that we're discussing.
Hi, James. Just quickly introduce myself. My name is Hillary. I'm a property strategist. So I'm working in an investment industry. So I just would like to learn about how do you attract more leads, and how do you get people to close a buy into your products, all of that.
How do we attract more leads? The biggest single thing, and then going back again of what I said before, is reputation. Now, in a company like ours, where people call many different services many different times, and they know people have called us, their past experience has a dramatic impact on
Mm.
how many people call you. I'll give you a simple example of that. In the very early days of gyms, it was quite difficult to find leads. It really was hard. People knocking on doors to try and find clients, lawnmower clients. We tried all kinds of. We tried actually canvassing. We tried. They didn't like the phones. We tried that. We did leaflets. We did everything we possibly could. It was really a struggle to get enough work. Now, in recent times, it's actually changed around to the extent that we get work very remarkably easily for most divisions, especially like mowing and fencing and so forth, and handyman. To the extent that even though we spend less money per franchisee than we used to, we have an enormous oversupply of leads.
Mm.
Yes.
In
Yes.
the last year, we've had well over 200,000 unserviced leads from these kinds of divisions. Dog wash, mowing, they're all huge open service. Less advertising. Now,
Wow.
the reason for that is very clearly one thing, is that as we've developed our system over the years, our level of service has gone up, and we measure this by the level of complaints. So, for example, in pre-franchise days, when I had subcontractors, and this was then for every 100 leads, I had 100 complaints. That was a very poor system. Now, when the franchise started, we had induction and training and something like that, and we tried to get people to behave a lot better. And after a few years, we started measuring the level of complaints, and we found it had gone down quite a lot. It was about 5%. So every 100 leads, we get 5 complaints. And then we started putting different systems into place. One of them was we started measuring complaints, recording them, and sending out warning letters and then breach notices. Another thing we do is started going for surveys, which we actually, after 10 days, we send a survey to the client, an electronic survey, very simply ask them to say B, bad, which we covered as 1 star, G, good, which is 5 stars, P, too expensive, which is a different measure altogether. And then we use that as a way of generating, in a sense, more complaints and more feedback, and then we get a lot of good ratings, and a franchisee gets a star rating, because if it gets them like 5.0, we know they're good. If they're getting like 4.2 or something, then they've got real problems. So we started putting this back into place. And as we put these systems into place, the complaints went down and down and down. So from 100% to 5% to now a fraction of a percent, well under 1% total leads. And as the level of complaints went down, in a magical way, the level of lead volume went up. And I have to admit, I was absolutely astonished when I saw how incredible the impact had been, how much it affected just by reputation.
Absolutely.
Absolutely brilliant at what you do.
Yeah, and it also protects and also enhances the brand based on your, similar to say other industries got dispute resolution. It's, as they say, it's better to sort of discuss open dialogue like you're doing through the surveys and move forward. And then, as you said, you've advertised less, but your business has grown exponentially. I actually watched one of the videos of your franchisees. He's an ex-policeman. I think he's in Melbourne, and your gentleman that does all the videos, he was with him, and then one of your franchisors went out with him, and he was talking about the trust where a lot of his customers give him the keys, Jim, give him the keys for the properties when they go away. That's how much they trust the Jim's brand. So he'll go and open the back gate. Mate, the customer's not even there, and they've given him the keys. So I mean, again, that's full credit to your brand.
Yeah, well, it's a very big and real thing too. Look, we actually do get occasional bad eggs. We had one case where a franchisee in the fencing division went out, collected a whole lot of deposits from clients to do fences, and disappeared.
Really?
And now we're chasing him. We've terminated him. We intend to bankrupt him. I mean, this is appalling behavior. But in the meantime, every one of those clients got all their money back, every single one. So we spend a lot of money over the period. Now, the great majority of franchisees do the right thing. Those that don't, normally they will actually pay it, fix it up. We will terminate them if they don't. But if we terminate them, we can't get the money back. We will fix the client somehow. It's a thing called a warranty fund, and we collect it and centrally and put it out. So only a tiny minority do the wrong thing, but it's a major factor. Clients know that after.
Absolutely, and it adds credibility because that customer will then, the old saying, one bad egg, you got another 100 or another 1,000 coming like a tsunami. That client will actually add value to your brand because they're going to go and tell everyone what happened and that you've refunded the money and so forth and so forth. So well, it's a bad story, but with a positive outcome for the client, I guess.
I think people would recognise when they've seen that, because people don't understand that. You see somebody who comes along, gives you a quote, looks all impressive and stuff, says, "I'll need a deposit to start. Give me, $2,000 or whatever it is." They disappear. I mean, it's pretty frightening. What do you do? How do you cope with that?
Exactly.
No client can pursue a person through the courts for $2,000.
No.
But just ring up the gym's head office, we investigate, we give you the money back. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
sure people who had that kind of experience would look at it and say, wow,
Yeah.
I would never, ever, ever use anybody but gyms again, because
Yep.
Yes.
who knows?
Yeah. No, absolutely. And again, I guess the behaviours, by what you've explained, there's the trust factor that you're
Yep.
building. There's the behaviours that change through the client system, the referrals. Your business has grown, and as you've explained with the stats, it's a win-win situation. And I guess, as you've explained in past podcasts, throughout COVID, your business grew exponentially as well through the lockdowns. Remember?
Yes, yeah. Well, growth of our business has not got much to do with clients. Clients are normally in oversupply, except to the very few divisions like bookkeeping, IT, white collar divisions, where it's a little bit hard to get work. Painting for some reason, but the great majority of the time, the limits on our growth is simply our ability to attract franchisees, and we're still growing. We're just short of 5,486. We're just short of 5,500 as of this morning.
Wow, really?
Yeah, we're still going up, but we could go up a lot faster if we had more franchisees. That's the biggest challenge. And we're looking at things like how to get more funding. So people who want to come into a franchise don't have even the $25,000 for a mowing franchise. They don't have it. So okay, how can we find a deal where they can come in and pay, say, $5,000 and have a franchise?
Yes, that's right. A bit like because I've done a lot of study, and we've spoken to this at uni. There's also funds for refugees, and that you and I can't. Well, I can't get, but refugees have certain special funding they can apply for, because there's a lot of people that really want to work, but as you said, they just haven't got the funds, and and they're probably the primary candidates, because you know what they say, when you're hungry, you go out and do the job, you know. And
you've got to be careful. We do very well out of new immigrants, because it's the job of somebody with initiative and enterprise. It doesn't have to have perfect English, can come in and do extraordinarily well. There's one lady I know. Well, she does cleaning work for a property of mine. She's a Filipino, and she had like a dozen employees within her first year.
Oh yeah.
But the reason she employed her own people who don't necessarily speak English, but she could work with them, and has a fantastic business.
Perfect example, and I've come across Filipinos, Asians, and as you said, look at what's happened. She's come on board and she's got 10 people, and away it goes. It's an extraordinary story.
Well, the big thing about people growing their businesses too, it's the same problem. A person wants to grow their business. Now we've got many of them. I don't even probably even half our franchises that just work by themselves. But a lot of them have employees, and some have multiple employees. It's the reason that decides whether they can grow or not is not normally clients. It's normally finding good employees. That's the hard. So somebody from an ethnic background has a big advantage in that way.
Yes, we've spoken about that before, but I guess also what you've touched on is important, because the type of service industry that your franchise is leading in the world. I mean, it's one of the largest franchise chains in the world. Is it scalable? It's scalable, and as you've just, a prime example was that Filipino who's come on board, and it's scalable. So the sky's the limit. And you've got major branding, because I mean,
it could be the one. It's not as easy to spread outside Australia and New Zealand as you might think. Gyms is a very strong culture. Okay, it's a culture which is a sort of a servant leadership. It's Jesus washing his disciples' feet. It's that kind of idea that we serve the franchisees, and all of our contracts are designed to be give franchisees a lot of protection, a lot of power. The fact that I give every franchisee my phone number and email address, training, all this kind of stuff too. It's a lot of. And then we do regular surveys to make sure they're being properly looked after. Gyms just into their interests. There's an Australian culture which is also strong in New Zealand, which is quite egalitarian, that suits it. It's a little more difficult to do it overseas. You tend to get more authoritarian attitudes, like I'm the franchisor, I'm the boss, you want. And also the further you get away from a head office, the harder it is to bring in that kind of special gyms culture. So it's not so much the technical details the system of the IT is the same, and we spent tens of millions of dollars a year, tens of millions of dollars overall developing software, for example. You can use that
Yes.
anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
But to find people who have the right attitude, that's very difficult, and to
Yes.
hold
Yeah.
them to that.
Yes, absolutely. Jim, we're going to conclude. We thank you as always. I personally thank you as always for your ongoing support. And I will be coming out to see you, obviously by appointment, because I'd love to go out on the road with your franchisee, as you've invited me a few times, and also give you a game of squash if we've got 5 minutes. But I have to train for that. I know you're a gun player.
I'm not that good. There's staff members who are a lot better than me, but a bit of racquetball is quite fun. We've got a new court there. So we like to look after our staff. We've got a free sporting complex and gym and football. And actually, we're getting a heated pool ready for them too. That'll be ready by Christmas.
Well, you'll probably get. Can I move in? Oh dear. But Jim, seriously, thanks for your time as always. I applaud you. I'd like to thank Jim Penman, CEO and founder of the Jim's Group, with close to 5,500 franchisees, just under, and growing in Australia, New Zealand, and Canada. Thank you, Jim, and don't forget to subscribe, comment, and we'll see you on the next podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Good to talk to you. Thanks, John.